the top 3 things that I have learned on my 3-year GLP-1 journey. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Brittany, welcome. I've lost 115 pounds over the course of 3 years. Yesterday was my 3-year anniversary. And here on my channel, I share all things GLP-1 related, from news stories that are going on, tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, your stories, my journey, all of the things I like to share here on the channel. And I like to do it in a relatable, down-to-earth, kind of no bullshit kind of way. So if that interests you, I would love to have you subscribe, stick around, and hang out with us. I post videos every Monday through Thursday, and I'm also active over in my Facebook group, which I will always have linked below, where it's a free encouragement group, and we just kind of hang out and talk, and you can be with like-minded GLP-1 journey people. So with all of that being said, today we are talking about the top 3 things that I have learned since my GLP-1 journey started. Now, at the start of my journey, I weighed 256 pounds, and it actually took me almost a year to share that starting weight number. If you've been around, you know, I did not share my weight for a very long time because I was ashamed of it. Like I think most of us probably are. And eventually I did decide to share with the world that, hey, I weighed 256 pounds, but guess what? Now I don't. I weigh 142 pounds. So so over the course of the last 3 years, my entire life has done a 360. I am not even close to being the person that I was 3 years ago. I look back on my videos from that time, like especially the first video I ever posted where I was like, hey, today's day 1, I'm gonna take my shot. I am quiet and meek and unsure of myself and just not in my element. And when I think back on life before GLP-1s, that's just how I was in every situation. I did what people told me to do. I felt less than. I felt like I had to be in a box, in a shell or whatever, like a tortoise in its shell at all times, because I didn't feel confident in my life. And I am so appreciative of 2022 Brittany for what she tried, the last thing that she gave a shot and decided to try. And so I've learned a lot of stuff over the past 3 years. So much has come into my life that was not there before. So many realizations have happened, so many aha moments, but I decided that I was going to pick the top 3 things. So I've been on it 3 years, 3 things, 1 per year, that I feel like have really transformed in the most beneficial way in my life since I started a GLP-1 and since I started on this journey and since I started sharing this journey with all of you. And I actually think that some of them might not be exactly what you think they would be, because, I've said this before, it's not all about the weight loss. The weight loss is actually, in my opinion, always my opinion, a add-on to all the other wonderful benefits that happen. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump on into it. I did not put these in any particular order. When I plan these things out, I sit down and I just kind of let the ideas flow and they get written down in the order that they pop into my head. So number 1, it's not that hard. And what I mean by that is that healthy living and being a healthy person is not as hard as it has been ingrained in our brains to believe that it is, okay? For decades, 40, 50, 60 years, the culture has been, diet culture has taught us that healthy living should require sacrifice and willpower and hard work and extreme focus and all of these things. And see, where the disconnect always was that people who were just sort of living healthily, naturally, were not struggling to do so. They weren't ever fighting to choose the healthy foods over the sweets. They weren't fighting with their brain constantly with food noise. It wasn't hard for them. However, there was this attitude portrayed in our culture that if you weren't living that healthy way, it's because you were somehow weak and you were somehow not doing what it took. Like you weren't able to do what it took. And healthy people would say, well, it's so easy. Like just don't go to Chick-fil-A every day. Don't go to McDonald's every day. Don't go take a walk after dinner. They would always tell us these easy things. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, go for a walk after dinner to aid in digestion, make sure that you're drinking your water. And they would tell us these like really simple things. And you're like, none of that works, right? Like it never worked for us, and it was never easy for us to do it because we were missing something that they had. And that was the insulin regulation, the hormone balance in our body, the proper levels of GLP-1 in our body to make our body function the way it was supposed to do. And as this GLP-1 discovery is broadening, what is being realized is that there were two different classifications of people, right? So the people that bodies were doing what they were supposed to do, i.e. regulating blood sugar, their insulin levels were right, and the insulin was telling the body to do what it needs to do, and it was all working in sync. And the broken people who had no regulation to their blood sugar, their hormone levels, their ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, was just out of control, and it wasn't being toned down. It was not being regulated in any sort of way, which is what the GLP-1 helps us to do. So what we have learned is that it's not hard. It's not some big thing, and it takes a minute to get over that realization, right? That, oh, I don't have to struggle. I don't have to fight my body constantly. I don't have to constantly obsess and think about food. I've used this analogy before, but I remember when I was, 3 years ago, I would sit at a restaurant, and the only thought, and I'd be there with a group of girlfriends, whatever, and they'd all, we'd have thin girls, heavier girls, middle-sized girls, whatever, girls, all women of all sizes. And the only focus I would have is my food and when it was going to get there and how many rolls I was going to eat, and was I going to get a takeout box, or was I just going to eat all the food? What was going to happen with my food? So present only in my food that I was missing everything else going on. And I couldn't understand how some other women were able to just like push their plate away when they were full and move on. And now I know why. They weren't obsessing over their food. They weren't thinking about their food. And the only way that you make that connection and you realize that that's what was going on is when you get to the point in your GLP-1 journey where you're like, oh, one day you're at a restaurant and you push your food away and it's been an hour and you've been talking to your friends and you realize you've eaten a third of your food or half of your food. And you're like, whoa, this is what normal is. It's not that hard. It doesn't have to be hard. And I get that in the beginning we track and we make sure we're doing all the right things and we do all the researching. But as the journey evolves, you start to realize that none of that is necessarily necessary. That your body will do what it's supposed to do if you allow it to. And that was the disconnect all these years of thin versus heavy people. Heavy people couldn't understand why thin people could do it, and thin people couldn't understand why heavy people couldn't do it. And now we're closing that gap, and that feels amazing. Number 2, your mentality will change more than your physical appearance will change. Your opinions will change. Your outlook on life will change. The way that you see the world will change. Your eyes will be open to people and things around you that you've never noticed before. Your friendships will change. Your discernment will change. My discernment, I've always had very high discernment. That is, I've been blessed with that gift. I am the girl who will not like the person that everybody else likes in the room because I know that they don't have good intentions. Like my discernment has always been on point. Now it's at my highest level it has ever been because I am able to see mentally and process mentally what's really going on in the world around me because my dopamine levels are not getting freaked out by food and smells and appetites and restaurant signs, because my brain is now more focused on the world around me and what's going on and little cues that people are doing. your mental, you know, when I was heavier, I used to want attention, right? Like why, like I'm a cool person. Why is nobody paying me any attention? Now I want people to leave me the heck alone, because I 100% realize that most of the time when people begin a conversation with you or when they seek you out, 99% of the time it's because of how you look. People are drawn in by the physical appearance. And so I am getting attention from people that never would have given me a time of day previously. And that goes on the flip side as well. I'm also now not getting attention from people who used to give me attention because I fueled their egos. So like friendships that have dissolved because I was the fat friend and now I can't play that role anymore in that friendship circle. And so I've had to move on. Your mental capacity to view things for how they really are in the world will be totally transformed. And it's a good and it's a bad thing, because, you know, I almost enjoyed being ignorant in the sense of not like blissfully ignorant in how I was treated because I was fat. I never really noticed it because it's the reason that I was always treated in my whole life, right? So now as a normal weighted person, quote unquote normal, I see the difference. I see the difference in how literal friends and family members treat me. And now I'm able to go back and say, well, what was wrong with me when I was 250 pounds? I was still the same like me, right? So I think that the mental shift is wonderful, but I also think that it can be troublesome for some. So I wanted to add this little caveat to this as well. Losing food, because food was our love. Food is still my love. I still love food, but food was our love, right? Food was our comfort. And losing that, and also losing friendships and people that you thought were in your life for the right reason, and then realizing that they're not, it can definitely throw some people into a dark space. Not only that, your dopamine signals are sort of severed, as we know, with the GLP1. And so you are not getting the same dopamine responses to different things in your life that you always did. And so there is definitely a subgroup of people that are like, I feel nothing now. I don't have my same positive responses to things. And that is definitely something that you should be sure to talk to your doctor about, because you do want to take care of your mental health on this journey. It's the most important thing. Your mental health drives everything else in your life. It just does. So if you are somebody that is struggling, please make sure that you're talking to your doctor about how you're feeling, why you think you're feeling that way, all of that, as well as joining some communities of people that are like-minded. So Facebook groups, follow people on TikTok that are like-minded, that are also in this transformative period of their life, because that's really what it is. It's you were living in a box and you were stepping outside of that box and totally transforming not just your physical appearance, but the way that you entirely view the world. And that can be scary. And it can be something that some people fight subconsciously because they're so used to the way things have always been. So although it's a beautiful thing that your mentality will change and differ on this journey, it can also be scary and overwhelming, and definitely something that you want to talk to your doctor about if you're struggling with. So I wanted to put that caveat in there as well. But just the fact that I have been able to completely change my total mental outlook on life, I would weigh 250 pounds again if I could have this same mental outlook, 100%. So it's to each their own, but yeah, that's been the most beneficial thing to me. And number 3, realizing that it was not my fault was the single most instrumental piece of this journey. Realizing that calories do not matter as much as we have always been taught that they mattered was mind-blowing to me. Because going back to number 1, this kind of reflects back on this, we now know that a healthy person's body was using 2,000 calories in a totally different way than our body was using 2,000 calories. Our body was confused about what to do with those calories and what to do with those nutrients. And so it was holding on to things that it didn't need to hold on to, and yada, yada. making the connection in my mind that it was not my fault that I couldn't do it was the single most important shift that my body made in this journey. When I was able, and it did not happen right away, right? So for me, it was probably about 6 months in when I started to connect the dots. It was when I was able to eat more. Like say we'd go out on a weekend and I would eat a bigger meal. And then the next day or the next several days, I would lose weight. And I'd be like, well, what's going on? I ate way more calories that day. And then I started to think back on days previously before GLP-1 when I would try to lose weight and I would have a cheat day or a cheat meal, or I would fall off the wagon for a week and then I would lose a pound or whatever. And I would think, oh, I just had this like light bulb moment of, oh, it's not the calories. It's not 100% the calories. Like obviously you can't eat 5, 6, 7,000 calories every day and lose weight, even on a GLP-1, but what our body was doing with the actual calories is not what it was supposed to be doing with the actual calories. So when you thought that you had to eat 1,000, 1,200 calories a day to lose weight, that's not true. Like you really could have eaten a higher amount if your body would have known what to do with it. You see what I'm saying? And so connecting that and letting go of that guilt and that shame that I had been carrying around for so long was the biggest thing that happened in my journey. Realizing that there was a reason why I couldn't do it and others could was amazing. And it's a mental shift that I see so many people struggling to make in the GLP-1 community every single time I bring up calories and how I don't count them or how I don't think that they are the be all end all to weight loss. People have something to say, and it's not their fault that they have something to say. It's because for 100 years, we've been told that calories in versus calories out is the only thing that matters. And now with these developments in obesity medicine and metabolic advances, we're realizing that that's not the be all end all. It's not, our bodies don't need us to eat less and less and less and less and less to lose weight. Our bodies need us to eat a healthy amount of food, but function in the correct way. And that is what GLP-1s help us do. And making that shift is, I would like to think that all people will make that shift eventually, but I see it a lot in groups and forums and on TikTok and on Reddit. A lot of people are struggling to make that shift, and I can only hope and pray that everybody gets to that point, realizing that it's not your fault that you couldn't lose the weight and that your body was broken. It's so freeing. It's so freeing. So those are my top 3 things that I have learned that have nothing to do really with weight loss and more so to do with how GLP-1s have totally transformed my life. I have been able to go into this journey every single day without the fear of failure, with knowing 100% that I will never weigh 256 pounds again. And that has been the biggest positive change of my life. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. That all helps my channel out so much. If you have realized something else on your journey that I did not list here, or if I did list it here, I want to hear about how it has impacted you as well. So leave that down below, and I will see you guys tomorrow in the next video. Have a great day, guys.